worksheets. Should we give out the worksheets?
I don't have the worksheets. So, okay.
I don't even think we're gonna,
Okay.
we just.
That's fine, we're gonna give out. I'll talk about it.
Do you want me to talk about the state? Yes.
That was fine. That's for, just our living.
Set up there.
Yeah. It's the hour.
Did you ever, I think I need to have my PDI adapter for it. I'm sure it was.
Connected.
To their cable for there's no eating in our session.
Oh, really?
It's working.
Yeah.
This is the same one I have.
We have a policing rules.
How you doing?
I don't think I can say this.
Stay off Carolyn Pugh.
Do you want me to put it down?
No, well, no, Carolyn.
The laptop?
Pugh.
It doesn't need to be up here.
Yeah, maybe.
Ended up at karaoke.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
How
about you?
There's not much to look at.
I just have one slide that's got something else. Chicken, there, no. Well, I didn't use them as a copy yesterday.
Yeah, which could be cool too.
No, if you want, if you want.
She's not gonna do pink color.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, I gotta be out from the go. But I thought I had done, I don't know. I should,
You're due by 4:30 for your cards.
Oh, we're supposed to about this movie?
well, maybe at the airport, I'll take care of it.
This chuck chuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just not coming on.
We'll start in 1 minute.
I need that.
You need batteries, yeah.
Or I think.
Does anybody think we need a mic? Does anybody need us to get a mic set up? Because there's no batteries in this one. Are
Can't
we
hear you.
okay?
What'd you say?
Yeah.
If anybody feels like it'd be helpful, we can.
The captions are helpful.
Okay.
That just happened when I went into PowerPoint and I went into presentation mode. They were like, do you want to put captions on? I was like,
Is that it?
yes, it is.
Thank you.
Sure.
What can I do?
Oh, there it goes.
Oh.
But it's probably just gonna.
Testing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's about to die. What I did is I just rubbed the batteries against my
Oh.
shirt. Rubbed the batteries against the shirt tray.
Did you send those electrons?
That's right. It's an old instructional designer trick.
I'm not gonna do that.
I'm gonna put it here.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to touch it or do we want to move it? Doesn't matter.
I think it's okay. Nobody's time to get some air moving around.
Yeah, that's
in
fine.
there.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our session. So this is called Connecting the Dots, Aligning Professional Development Programming with Outcomes and Assessment Initiatives. I'm Kristen Copeland. We are from Clover Park Technical College. I'm the Dean of Library and Learning Innovation, which is a new title for me. I think that's probably about the 5th time I've said that in public. So before that, I was the Director of Teaching and Learning at Clover Park for a couple years. And I'm the, what do I call it? The what is that when you begin something? Inaugural teaching. I started the TLC at our campus. So I actually worked very closely with Andy during the pandemic because we were both kind of in the same place at our institutions and and as technical colleges, we have a lot of similarities, so thanks for being here, Andy. It's nice to see a friendly face who we worked with consistently throughout the pandemic to help our faculty. So, let me roll back a little bit. I was English and Communications faculty, I still am. I wouldn't accept an administrative position unless they let me put that dormant, so that if I really hated administration, I could go back to teaching. So far it's been great. I love my team and what I do at the college, so I don't have plans to go back to full-time faculty, but I still dip my toes in the classroom pretty consistently so I can make sure we have a pulse on what's going on with our students to be able to help our faculty. So I actually received tenure the week before the world shut down. So I received tenure and maybe the next day, the president said we're shutting down in March 3rd week or something like that. And that quarter before also, I applied and received the position of coordinator of teaching and learning. So I had this wonderful 5 to 10 year plan about how to establish a really robust teaching and learning center at the institution that turned into a 2-week plan. Because I worked through spring break to get everyone online. We had a 30%, 32% Canvas usage that went up to 98%, obviously in a matter of a few weeks. And I was working 70 to 80 hours a week for those first few months trying to get everyone established and going. And I loved every minute of it. The other day in the car, I was joking around about it with a meme with my oldest daughter, and she's like, that's not even, you can't even laugh about that. You love your job. It's kind of funny that my kids feel that so much too. I did get a little mom guilt. Like, oh, I hope she says that, like, you love your children. And I really do. But during that time, where our plan accelerated, we had to realign and figure out what we were going to do. Also, as part of that, I got more release time, and about 6 months into that, maybe a year, I became the director. And so that's when my faculty position went dormant. So we've pretty much had someone full-time in the Teaching and Learning Center since 2021. And for 2.5 years, I was the only person, and sometimes a half person. And I'm guessing that for some of you, that's you. You're faculty who's been given release time, anybody in that position, or you're someone who's looking forward to that, or you're really interested in outcomes and assessment, or how we're aligning things. And then a few shifts happened and people left, and so now I oversee the library, the tutoring center, e-learning, the teaching and learning center, syllabus management, and probably quite a few other things that I'm forgetting, but right now, those are the main priorities that I'm working on. In the middle of all of that, we received a grant, a REPO grant. I don't know if any of you had that, but we received that for work in open education resources, and part of that was I could hire 2 instructional designers. So thankfully I was no longer a team of 1, and I hired Jeff and another instructional designer that's now at Pierce, but in her place, we now have Ronald. So we have 2 instructional designers. We also got Title III funding, so we were able to hire 2 more instructional designers, because we moved Jeff and Ronald into Title III because that's a 5-year grant, and hired 2 more temporary instructional designers until August. We also moved someone into my director position as a coordinator of special projects in the Teaching and Learning Center. That's a faculty member who's getting full release time. We have a very large team, and I understand how blessed we are that that's not going to be the case in the future for us, and we'll still be blessed. But to have that large of a team, and I understand that's not the case at most institutions. And I just want to share that ahead of time, because the work that we did on this was done with a team of 1 to 3 people at varying times, with support from administration at our college and a faculty bargaining agreement that for professional development hours. So that also I know is not necessarily common at all colleges, that faculty are getting raises based on their professional development specifically. We do have a high amount of hours, just because I think there are a lot of faculty. How many are faculty in here? A few. So we do have a high hour requirement for that, just to put it in perspective. Faculty have to get 48 hours in pedagogy, professional development, and 48 hours in other. So they can do training related to their profession, or they could do more pedagogy training. And so for a year, they have to get 96 hours to increment. It feels like a lot, but we've created a lot of in-house stuff that we'll go through. As part of this, and I know I'm only on slide 1, and I will not, it's not been this long, I only have 2 slides, don't worry. So, part of this was making sure we had faculty voice in the foundation of the Teaching and Learning Center, in the creation, and in the assessment of what we're doing in the Teaching and Learning Center. So, we are an ATD college, Achieving the Dream, and as part of that, we were accepted into a cohort called Building Capacity for Change, where we were able to really evaluate our teaching and learning philosophy, our practices, and our plan, which was really helpful for me since my 5 to 10 year plan was done. So I really needed to revisit and create more plans for what we're doing. And a lot of what you're gonna see in this presentation came from the discussions with a large group of faculty, counselors, and administrators that helped form the strategic priorities and plans of the Teaching and Learning Center. We're probably at the point where we need to do that again. That was about a year and a half ago. So we probably need to revisit that because we've accomplished a lot of that. So I also want to acknowledge the people sitting next to me just quickly. So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves when you do your slides, if that's okay. But they're my core team. They're my instructional designers. I couldn't do anything without Ronald and Jeff. They're the backbone. So I really appreciate them presenting with me and creating this together. And I lied, I have 3 slides. I'm sorry about that. So the next slide is the direction that we're taking this presentation. Our college set up a strategic plan under the acronym of CARES. And what we have done, we've aligned what we're doing to the strategic plan of the institution. In the middle there, we have our instruction plan that we've aligned all the way through. Just so you all know what these are as we're talking, I'm not gonna read all these for you, but the C is community of care. We put it at the top and as the acronym because it is the most important, not to the college, but also to the Teaching and Learning Center. We want faculty to feel supported and included, and that they have us as their cocoon of support as they're trying to provide that for students. The keynote was really timely for this. I feel like in the past when I was faculty, I remember one in-service in particular where I stood up and said, we have to stop running over faculty with the bus of students. Because students are very important and faculty love students, but in general, at that time at our institution, administration was using the love of students to take advantage and not support faculty. So our role in the Teaching and Learning Center is to not be that. We are hoping to support, uplift, and really engage faculty in what they need to be successful in the classroom with their students. So that's our main priority, and that's also the institution's main priority for everyone to feel that community of care. Does it happen? No. We have a ton of work to do on this. We do our best. It happens with individual faculty, but as an institution, we have a long way to go, and I think a lot of people do. And that was also probably part of the keynote that I think stuck out to me. A is access. We want to be profoundly accessible to our community, and we take that as we want to be accessible to faculty and create things that are accessible to them and what they need. Retention and completion, obviously that's always important to institutions. A lot of our funding is based on this, and also we want students to be successful, but we also have to retain our faculty. So what are we thinking of when we're trying to retain students? How are we retaining faculty and supporting them? And then employment, we'll talk about this a little bit and how we support faculty to support students in employment. And then sustainability. Even though we're grant funded, we are working toward permanent lines in the general ledger for the college. So we are making steps to make not only the teaching and learning center sustainable, but that cocoon of support for faculty sustainable as we go through. So in the next slides, you're going to see how each of these are aligned to our hope of aligning professional development and outcomes together at our institution.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Ronald Lesko, as Kristen previously mentioned. I will talk to you now about the community of care aspect of what we're trying to do, and then how that relates to both outcomes and assessment, and then also the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so when I first came to the college, I was hired around January of last year. They had a set of professional development that their faculty was working through, and we were trying to brainstorm what can we do for this next upcoming year, starting in July, that can really get the faculty on board with professional development and working together. We were really trying to pinpoint this community aspect of professional development because it's so difficult to get motivated if you're doing something alone, but when you're with a group, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot easier when I'm with people and they're supporting me, we're working together. If there's a discussion post and there's only, you know, a couple entries into it, then it's not gonna be as engaging for you, or you're not gonna want to try to participate, as opposed to if there's something with, you know, like 20 or 30 different entries in there, then you have a lot of different things to choose from. So one of the things that we did, so I, in beginning of summer last year, I went to Clover Park, sent a bunch of people to the National Conference of Race and Ethnicity, NCORE, in New Orleans last year. They're going to Hawaii this year. I'm not going to that. I wish I was going there. But last year, we went there with the big cohort, and I felt like it was my job to try to absorb as much of the stuff that they were trying to talk about there. And it's with that experience that we were like, okay, we need this EDI, as we call it at our college. We need this as something that it's not required, but we want it to be like at the forefront of what we're trying to do with professional development. So we put together a course for all of the faculty to come into that started with, it was 2 weeks of kind of the EDI basics. We wanted to make this community, and so the second part of that course was observations. We wanted to introduce observations as something that would connect the different faculty together. Maybe you would have somebody from nursing go in to observe somebody who's in avionics and see, even though the topic, they might not know what they're talking about, we wanted to focus on the teaching practices, and maybe by watching another faculty member, you can kind of see how they run their classes and maybe get some ideas, and then to have that conversation with each other. And we also included 2 weeks of syllabus training, which started off with the inclusive syllabus and how you can make adjustments to your syllabus, you know, minor tweaks that take it more from a contract where the students feel like they have to read it and there's a bunch of rules, and if you break the rules, then you're in trouble, to more like student-centered language and how we could do that. So we had this idea to gamify it, so that's why you can see some of these Mid-Journey created images here on the left. We really wanted to tap into that community, so you you're going through, we made this gamified story where the idea is everybody, all the faculty at the college are this group of explorers, and they're all meeting at the base camp. The base camp was the name of that course with all the different modules that I just spoke about. And then they were to go up this mountain, and then it's supposed to symbolize, like, you know, that struggle as you're going through this professional development. Once you get to the top, you get like a nice view of the land and everything that you've completed. The verdict is still out, if that is successful or not. We tried our best. We learned a lot of things. There were a lot of people that went through it and made it to the top of the mountain. But there are still a lot of challenges that we are still trying to figure out. It's helping to inform us for what we can do to offer professional development into the future. A couple of things that we were trying to do, if you see those images in the middle, we wanted to kind of highlight some of the key players that were, you know, doing the professional development work. And so we took their photos and then put it into an AI generation like app, and then it gave it this kind of cool background.
And the faculty loved that.
Right,
They were
everybody's
"How
like,
can
when
I
can
do
I
that?"
get when are you gonna make my avatar? So,
It was surprisingly motivational, because if they completed something, we would make them.
that's right, that's right. And we created a AI course that is the second part of the EdTech track, and I tried to include them into the story. I took their pictures and added it to the, there's a lot of images of climbing up a mountain, and so we tried to infuse them in to try to make them part of the story. So that's kind of the stuff that we did related to the professional development. And then in addition to kind of create this community of like, hey, we're here for you, we're trying to do all this stuff for you. We held a couple of events, in-person events in the Teaching and Learning Center. The first one was Bagels, Berries, and Bacon. And we were hoping that that title would just bring all the hungry faculty to us.
It brought staff.
It did.
And staff, yeah. That was actually a pretty successful event. That's where we brought them in. We told them about the different tracks, right? We told them, okay, here's the base camp. Everybody's going in here. Everybody's going to choose. You choose your own team. We had like colors and names and a whole story for all of the different tracks. And we did the same thing this year called Cookies, Cocoa, and Coffee. And we are trying to do like a big thing with alliteration. So I think the next one is donuts,
Dr. Pepper and.
Dr. Pepper. But I think it was like donuts and drinks. We're trying to do it like an after hours thing. So
Yeah, yeah, that's right, you're right.
that's still on
Yeah.
the planning board. But anyways, the purpose of these events was to try to get people to come and see, you know, who we are, talk to us. If they have some problems with their classroom, we're there to, you know, listen and give advice and, you know, try to have them connect with the other people so that we can make this community. And they were telling me a story. I wasn't able to make it to the Cookies, Cocoa, and Coffee, but there was a faculty member who came in who hadn't done any professional development and was not interested in doing any professional development, but through this event, they were more interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was somebody who was hostile to the idea of professional development. And just from my background in events like this, I would turn to Kristen and say, we're gonna do what? Okay, let's do this. But we always, it was part of her plan and her primary charge to us, which is to be the people that build relationships on campus, to make those connections. And that really paid off in that case.
What was he hostile about, or she hostile about?
Doing more.
Yeah.
Doing more.
Yeah, there's not enough time, processes are transparent, you know, there's a whole.
Not no compensation?
Yeah, but
It
that's.
wasn't about that.
Yeah.
They think that the compensation is decent for the step increase,
Uh-huh.
but it was just, this faculty member's just kind of resistant in general, so.
Never met a faculty like that.
I can introduce you to
We had learning experience.
You need a donut.
Come to our next event. Alright, and then just to wrap up here with the community of care, another thing that we do is last year we started a podcast. We were originally had this idea of these monthly workshops, but then we were like, it takes a lot of work to set up a workshop, and who knows who's gonna come and whether it's gonna be good. So we just decided, why not, instead of trying to give all this information, all at once, we would kind of break it up. And so we made this podcast where every week, mostly every week, there is a new topic, and sometimes we do series. So I think it was in January, either January or February, we did a AI series where we spoke to a lot of different people, faculty. We also spoke with some people outside of our college. Our podcast is called Simon Says Educate, and everyone should have gotten the sticker just now from Kristen. If you look at the chest of, this is Simon Robot. He's our mascot. Very conveniently, with the advent of AI, we have a robot mascot. This QR code in his chest, if you scan it with your phone, it looks too small to be real, but it should take you to our website for our podcast, where you can subscribe on Spotify, do all the likes and subscribing and all that stuff. So this month, actually, what we're doing for the podcast in the next couple of months is we're mirroring this CARES acronym. And so for March, it's Community of Care. I interviewed one of the staff from our college to talk about an EDI book group that he started for the faculty. And then I interviewed a faculty member to talk about how to make a welcoming classroom. And I interviewed a student last week who was talking about how she feels Clover Park exhibits this community of care in the different classes that she's in. And I think that the whole reason that we're doing all this stuff, we're trying to make the community with the faculty, is we're trying to model it for them so that they can get some ideas of how to bring it into the classroom. And so I think that's kind of our main goal. We want the faculty to be champions of this CARES so that they know how to do it with their students. So I'm going to pass it over to Jeff, where he's going to talk about access.
Oh no, that's the way. I'll just use the. Okay. Let's just try to scroll this down a little bit. So access for us means a lot of things. One of the things I've been very passionate about in my career has been open education resources and open textbooks, because one part of access is economic access. That's something that we see with students, and I'm sure you have in your colleges, and OER is not the unusual term it used to be, right? But so what we did was we had a OER institute, OER faculty institute that we held virtually. It was like a mini two-day conference, and we brought in people from our campus who were using OER, but we also went with, we had people from all over the state. We had people internationally. We had Canada was well represented in this. And we did that for 2 summers. And in this upcoming summer, it is the AI Institute. And so that's, and the reason why that is that a lot of the people who are working in OER are also working with AI to help, build ancillary materials, quizzes, and actually, as an assistant in authoring text. But the economic access is important to us. Also, we had the idea that we would fold EDI into everything that we did. That it was going to become part of every one of our professional development projects. But we also collaborated with the Office of EDI and built a course for them. The other part of access is that relationship building, that communication. And so with that in mind, we also had a newsletter that we come out with. So we have the podcast, but we also have the newsletter, and it started, we had a YouTube channel called Simon Says that got turned into a podcast, which is actually fairly popular. But also we use the monthly newsletter to help communicate the different professional development opportunities, and also as a forum for faculty voice to come out. So faculty will write articles, and then we'll also have staff, so people are aware, for instance, about how to make referrals for students. So we have the director of our Student Disability Services Office write articles on that. And then speaking of the Office of Disability Services, I'm a co-chair with that director in the accessibility committee. And what we're doing for May, because May 16th is International Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And so we're taking the whole month of May, and we're having an event where on May 16th, we're going to talk about universal design for learning. So it's going to be a presentation that we're inviting faculty to. And then we're also having 4 events after that are called Accessibility Spring Cleaning. And each week we're going to focus on a different aspect of accessibility and learning materials. So like accessibility in Canvas, accessibility in Word and Adobe, accessibility just with images, and then accessibility with video and caption. But we're also telling them that those are drop-ins, and although we are going to be focusing on those, you can come in with any sort of situation or problem or discussion about accessibility that you'd like to do. So that is our access piece.
This is my 3rd slide, sorry. I wasn't counting the title slide. I think that's the. So with retention and completion, there's a few things that I wanted to say before we dig into this, and that's when we created this presentation about connecting the dots, we really want you all to see how we are aligning not only with priorities for the classroom, but that we're aligning with the Office of Outcomes and Assessment, the Office of EDI, the Office of Disability Services, and we're trying to do that holistic approach for the faculty as well and make sure that we're aligned. So part of that event, when I was creating the new plan with the team, with the ATD cohort, the Building Capacity for Change, part of that was thinking through how can we align things. So how are we going to align outcomes and assessment work with what we're doing in our office with professional development? So what we ended up doing is combining Outcomes and Assessment Day with In-Service Day. So we have Outcomes and Assessment Day on a Friday, and we have In-Service on a Monday. And what we do on Outcomes and Assessment Day informs what they what the faculty are doing on the Monday in professional development in service day. We're actually switching that up this year, and we're doing, what are we calling it? We've thrown around a lot of names, but
The tentative name is
In and Out Day. We're gonna serve burgers.
In-service outcomes and assessment.
Typical
Yeah.
from California?
Yeah, in Ronaldsburg. So it's Jeff. I'm the only one, not living significant time in California. How'd that happen?
It's the cold California.
I guess. So what we're doing is, instead of having very distinct, this is outcomes and assessment day, this is in-service day, and just trying to form the connection for faculty, outcomes and assessment work will begin aligned with professional development right after that work. And so it'll be integrated throughout both days. So it's a large scale, like, weekend event.
So you have your faculty development day, and then you have a separate day just for outcomes and
Yes.
assessment? Or is that negotiated in the contract as a non-instructional day?
Yes. Yes. Good question. So it's not an instructional day. So,
It is in the weekend? Did you say weekend?
well, we're hoping their subconscious works on it over the weekend.
Okay.
We're not requiring them to
Friday
work.
and Monday.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
but
see.
you know, we need some processing time. A lot of times we learn things and we start doing things, and then you think, oh, I wish I would have done this, or oh, I wanna implement that, and you don't have enough time to even process.
Mhm.
So having that downtime on the weekend, I think actually really helps. So, when we were coming back from the pandemic, we had our in-service days online, which is, everything was online. It wasn't super fun, not a whole lot got done, or people didn't feel like they were implementing things in their classroom because they just didn't have time, etc. So when we came back, that picture on the left, when we came back 2021 with, was it 2021? I can't remember. Anyway, the first time we had it in person, our spring in-service day, I talked to my vice president and I said, this needs to be fun. We need to be really focusing on relationship and community so that faculty don't feel like we're just expecting them to open their brains and just pour knowledge in and then walk away. And we hope that we wanna have them experience the learning like we're hoping they're doing in their classroom. That they're doing active learning practices, that they're using inclusive practices. So what we decided to do was have it be an in-service day where there were no talking heads, they were just experiences. So what we did is have faculty sign up for a presentation on something that they had as a hobby, that they were passionate about, that they really loved. So they would do things like, I'm trying to think of all the topics. A PVC bow and arrow. We've had yoga, we've had a dance party, how to create a dance party, we've had lots of different things. And they sign up for that, and then they meet with an instructional designer who walks through the teaching practices that they're using, and how does that align to strategies that faculty could use in their classroom with their students. So everyone's students, all day long, being part of this experience, and they're also walking away with teaching practices that they could implement in their classroom. So you're learning a new thing, you're not just philosophically sitting there learning practices, but you're able to see them in action and have things that you can take away. One thing that we're revisiting, as part of our assessment of this day, the faculty said there wasn't enough time to talk about it. So we're coming back together at the end of the day and talking about the teaching practices and making some plans of how they may incorporate them into their classroom more strategically instead of just hopeful that they'll do it. The other thing that Ronald already talked about a little bit, that we are really striving for with retention and completion besides best teaching practices, and this is part of that. In the base camp that he talked about, we made sure we really crafted a module about the syllabus that was related to the learner, that it's a very learner-centered syllabus. So we talked about language and what needs to be in there, I've heard sessions about the class creating the expectations or even the whole syllabi with the anti-racist work. that they created together. And so we go through a lot of that in that module with our faculty about how to create an inclusive syllabus. So we're really hoping that when we try to retain and engage the faculty, that what they're also doing is taking that and incorporating some of those principles into their classrooms. We have high hopes of attaching codes to classes for people who go through all this professional development to see the beginning and the end, but CTC Link is so fun. We just, are just deep in that and trying to figure it out, but that's one of our plans with our data people to assess and how well we're doing with retention and completion of what we're offering. But the main way that we are trying to align professional development with outcomes and assessment is making sure we have a very close relationship with the manager of outcomes and assessment. We meet with her all the time. She's an office of one. I know how that feels. So we really try to support her as much as possible, but also that what we are engaging faculty in is so aligned that they see the threads throughout all they're doing throughout the year. They create an action plan when they're looking at their data, and then we build on the action plans so that we provide that sustained professional development throughout the year through our professional learning tracks. Through last year, we did a series of workshops related to each area that we saw on the action plans that people wanted to work on. So after retention and completion, we're moving to our E in CARES, which is employment. And this is also part of the faculty action plan related to outcomes and assessment data. So this is really important that we dig into this in the Teaching and Learning Center as well.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting bit about working at a technical college, because we have students who will maybe they'll show up, they'll take a few classes, decide on a program, get halfway through the program, and then leave because they've got a $90,000 a year job at Boeing or something. And that for us is a failure, right? Because what we're trying to track is we're trying to track degrees and certificates. And so I'm hoping that we'll have, in the future, we'll have a little more respect for the ingeniousness and entrepreneurship of our students who manage to take what they cobble together and create a career. What we're part of this employment, it's all of these things are so tied together, right? Because the students can't get employed unless they have access to the classes, and to get access to the classes, they need to be able to afford to go. And so that's one of the reasons why we were working very closely with the welding department to create, to help them create their first open textbook basic blueprint reading for welders. A lot of those students are also students who might already be working. They have families, and then these programs, if the welding classes also take a lot of time, right? So being able to mitigate some of those problems economically that those students might have in accessing that is helped us decide to make this one of the first things we did in OER. Also, the instructor, Kerry Flanagan, was just, when he grabs onto an idea, he sees it through, and he's not, he doesn't have any kind of relationship with computers at all, and so this was a lot of work.
No, I think that's an important piece though, Jeff.
Yeah.
He walked into the library and asked me how to turn on the laptop that we loaned him.
Yeah.
And this faculty member was like, I'm doing this. He sat down, figured it out with us, and then Jeff worked with him to create a textbook. I mean, to take a faculty member from, I don't know how to turn on a computer, to you're creating an OER textbook, in my mind, that's actually pretty miraculous. But I think that's showing the value of what we do, working one-on-one with the faculty and meeting them where they need the support, so that we can, faculty need encouragement just like our students do, that they can do these things. Because they, a lot of times the hesitancy is they just don't know that they can do it. And so some of that is the one-on-one listening and support that we're trying to do. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, no, that's right. I mean, technical literacy is,
Yeah.
is part of that. It's not just, students that need that. We also, let's see, so welding, it was, yeah, that's right, sorry. We're also working with, our faculty on a lot of the latest, technologies, so we're working with them on, AI, augmented reality, and virtual reality. We're one of the few campuses that has an airfield on it, right? So our South Campus has, is where we teach all the aviation and things like that. And so we have projects where the students will be able to get time working on motors, disassembling motors, and seeing how things are put together through augmented reality. I think Ronald knows more details about that if you have questions about that. But the idea is it's the same that you see in nursing simulations. Nursing simulations and simulations like this with avionics allow the students to get more time practicing that they may not even be able to get access to in the workplace, right? It's a lot of it too in augmented reality and virtual reality is the students get a chance to learn and practice procedures that have to become repetitive, right? That you and you may not get that time, even if you have so many hours of so many hours at work or so many hours working in labs in medicine to be able to get this practice. So all of this, the motivation for us behind all of this is for the employment of the students.
So just to piggyback off of what Jeff was saying with the employment, he talked about AR and VR as future skills that the students need to learn. We were also tasked, or we came up with the idea to make a track for the EdTech track. The second part, I think maybe I mentioned it earlier. It's called Generative AI in Higher Education. We created a course where the faculty can go through. They can get experience using some of the tools, ChatGPT, and Cloud, and Gemini, and how they can use it for what they're doing, and then how to create assignments for the students so that if they want to introduce AI in the classroom, they're doing it in a thoughtful way, they're doing it in a responsible way, and then so that the students will have experience using it, because as we know, and I'm sure if anybody went to any AI panel, that's what the job seekers of the future are going to be looking for. They're going to be asking you in the interview, like, what do you think of generative AI? Have you used it? That sort of thing. So that kind of relates to what we're going to be talking about here on the last slide, which is sustainability. And this is just a moment here in this presentation to kind of wrap everything together. Sustainability, we think, is important, and I mean, I think it's kind of necessary as to go forward as a college. And then, so we think that we're the TLC, the Teaching and Learning Center, working with EDI, the Office of EDI, working closely, setting up meetings, talking about the different kinds of training that we can include for the faculty. Because we already have that track that we created, the base camp, where all the faculty went in, and you know, it was very active. We put everybody in there, so you can see discussion threads that are like 50 posts long, with all the instructors talking with each other. So really doubling down on that. Our college-wide learning outcomes are infused with EDI, and so as she was talking about our outcomes and assessment person, when she was drafting them, she kept that at the forefront. And I feel like if that's what our college-wide learning outcomes are, then moving down into the program, into the course learning outcomes, that's actually our goal for this round of professional development. Is we are going to be working with EDI, but then we're also going to be focusing our track. So instead of going off into 4 different tracks, last year it was EdTech, evidence-based practices, open education resources, and a cornerstones track, which is kind of like the track the new faculty would need to go through just to kind of know about our college. And then a lot of people are coming straight from industry, so they might not know what Canvas is or how that works, so that was for them. But instead of kind of spreading it out, we're deciding that it's more effective for us if we put them all together. And so we're thinking, we're still in the planning stage, but we're going to be creating a track that's focused on outcomes and assessment. And we're trying to figure out a way to make it interesting. Instead of saying outcomes and assessment, we're looking for like a new way to brand it. So if anybody has any ideas, because it doesn't have the best representation. I think a lot of people, well, a lot of faculty at our college are a little bit confused. It's this nebulous thing that we should be doing, and we go to, you know, day-long trainings so that we can learn, and we're filling in the data, but they don't. We're worried that they're not seeing the connection to how it affects the students and how it affects their teaching, which subsequently affects the students. So we're going to be working very closely with them. I think in another way that we can stay sustainable is to branch out and work with other colleges. So if you all are doing anything that's related to outcomes and assessment, professional development, if you've taken some training that you think is good, we've been talking with some of the people from Tacoma Community College in the back to see if we can work with them, because they're also interested in the same thing at their college, and the importance of assessments. And we have some good ideas that we're thinking about, and we're hoping that by creating this interest in outcomes and assessment for the faculty, where they can see the value of it, then they'll be able to go through our trainings and really kind of bring all this stuff together so that we can remain sustainable on into the future. So that's sustainability.
Sure, and I just wanna, I think, I shifted Ronald a little bit. I was like, talk about this. But part of our job in the Teaching and Learning Center is really to go back to the Name-Arbor presentation with connecting the dots. That's our job. When we see that the dots are not connected for faculty between data and outcomes and assessment work, and then their professional development, and then equity, diversity, and inclusion, and how all of that is aligned, it's our job to go back to the drawing board and figure out what we can do better. And that's part of our assessment work is, okay, these 4 tracks that we started in the fall, that was too much, faculty weren't engaged. I am one who does not like to deviate from a plan, but this job has made me realize that can't be me. And so Ronald came to me and we talked, the team talked, and we said, we've got to merge these and put everybody in a different track, in the same track besides the new faculty, because people are asking for very specific things and they're disengaging with what they're currently in. So we merged everybody in the spring into an educational technology track, because that's what people were asking for. And that was a huge lift, and that was a huge shift, but because they weren't seeing the dots and they weren't connecting, we scrap it. A lot of hard work, hours and hours and hours and hours. Faculty that are in there and engaged, they could continue. but we put all faculty in one track besides the new faculty. And that's what we also are doing for next year. People are saying, this is boring work. How comes in assessment work? I'm just being honest, that's what they're saying. That is the feedback. I love you, Jessa, but honestly, like,
This is like, they're crazy.
it is, the general consensus from what we're receiving from faculty is they were disengaged and not understanding the connection between the students behind the numbers. And so it's our job in the Teaching and Learning Center to put faces to the numbers and connect the dots for faculty, just like we would hope they're doing in their classroom. That they're seeing where their students disengage, that they're assessing what's happening. We're doing that on our end of this so that we can connect the dots and create that CARES model that we're hoping to achieve with all of our different pieces of CARES. So we have 6 minutes for questions. We hope to give you more. I talked too much. I told them this was gonna happen. Jeff and I did this presentation in 30 minutes. That was fun. So we left lots of things out for that presentation. We're hoping that we gave you a lot of things that you may need. If you look at that QR code, our LibGuide has a ton of resources. Anything that we create at Clover Park is open. You are free to use, remix, redesign. All we hope is that if you are using it and you create something that you think is great and you're getting good feedback, that you also share that so that we can just create better things for our faculty together. We're stronger together as a whole system. So we want to, when we have, like right now, I have a huge team. It's not gonna happen for long, and so we've had the resources to be able to create more things than other colleges. So when Big Ben calls, sure, get in our AI track, no problem, we'll meet with you. Then we, know TCC is working hard on different things, we wanna work with you so that we can create better, but also in the long run, do less work. So that's how we can reduce workload. But did anybody have any questions for us or anything you want clarification on?
So is the Learning Center the only place on campus that offers PD for faculty? I'm from Bellevue College and we have several different areas that offer it. So we have been trying to work on the challenge of how to kind of, align and bring it to a place where faculty know what's out there and how to align it with what their needs are.
So something that's helped out is our newsletter. We put all professional development in the newsletter, but also something that's helped it is we create the Canvas courses for them, and our PD tracking for faculty to get the credit is through badging. And so we create the internal courses so that they can be badged. So if that one slide, the access slide, has 2 examples of EDI-led trainings that count for faculty PDU, that we created the Canvas course and created the badges so that they could be a part of that. So it's not necessarily that we are doing the training, but everything kind of filters through us just by nature of we create the Canvas courses.
That's awesome. And do you use Badger or do you use
We do use Badger.
We use the AI Badger, and I'm trying to bring it up right now.
Awesome.
It's kind of on the fly, but our approach to badging this year and to make professional development a little bit more transparent is we were badging every hour of work that they did, and so it was automatic. As long as they finished the assignment, it would award them the badge. And then what's nice about that is everything gets stored into the Canvas credentials, and then you're able to just export everything at once, and you can see very clearly like how many hours each of the people have.
So also we're starting July 1, we will be the tracking house for all PD.
You have a question?
Yeah, I was curious about the newsletter. I've been looking at the LibGuide, there's a ton of great stuff on here. The newsletter, you won't let me know when it's probably user error, but saying it needs to be in a Clover Park SharePoint to look at that.
Did you try another month?
No.
Sometimes one of the months, if it's the most recent one, it may have
Okay.
been an issue.
We'll try to work on getting those. I think we house them on our Clover
Yeah,
Park
I mean,
SharePoint, but
I can see the front and, look at the front. I'm curious if you have a way to track, like, engagement with the newsletter? Like, how many people reading it? Is that worth your time? Does it produce results? 'Cause that's
It
something I was
produces
thinking about.
results, because people come and ask us things or talk about it. I think what's interesting is, sometimes I don't think we realize our reach. I had a faculty member that I hadn't really talked to in a while, and I was in a meeting with her about her PD, and she's like, yeah, I totally redesigned my psychology course this quarter based on what I was learning in the generative AI course that I'm in right now. And she redesigned her whole psychology course around training her students in generative AI as it relates to research with what she's doing in psychology. But I would not have known that she was doing that. They just kind of are taking the ball and running with it sometimes, and we don't even know. So sometimes it's hard to track it. Other times we know because they ask for our support. But there is no way to track the reading count on the newsletter at this
You
point.
just email that out monthly?
Mhm.
And that's part of profound accessibility. That's
Yeah.
what our president uses that term. It's like, we know that we can track the podcast, we know we got email, there's tickets, and then there's certain things that you do where, like, we have an event, we've invited everybody, we've gotten some RSVPs, and we're always surprised at just how many people just walk in.
Oh, that's a good segue. I know we're done now, technically
Yes.
done, but if you do go to this website, if you scan either Simon's chest, or if I bring the slides back up, if you are interested in either presenting or attending our 2024 AI Institute, you just click on this Simon robot here, and then down at the bottom, there is a form for presenting, and then there is a form for registering. And
Yeah,
registering is simple as
it's free.
name, email address, and where you're from.
And we'll give you a badge.
Give you a badge. There you go.
Thank you all. Oh, yeah.
Working on connecting the dots, yesterday at the last, presentation, J.R. Hudspeth, who teaches at Renton,
Yeah.
he talked about
Mhm.
negotiating the syllabus with the students.
I was in that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I went up and talked to them after, and I'm like, here's my card and sticker, would you like to present? Make sure you did, because that was a really great presentation. Jessa?
Yeah, I asked Gemini to come up with some snappy cool names for
Oh,
outcomes and
yes,
assessments.
What is
we
it?
asked
What is it?
ChatGPT.
What is it?
My favorites were the assessment ascendancy and markedly measurable.
Markedly measurable.
Sure.
Market. And it
We're
could be
big
like a
fans of
market.
alliteration, so anything.
That's what I was thinking.
Markedly measurable, and it could be like a market, like they could.
No, market, like with a D, market.
Oh, market.
Oh, my. Okay.
Well, we can still think. I don't know.
Like marketing and marketing.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, thank you all for coming.
If anybody has any other questions.